Yo everyone, welcome back, and today we continue our season 2 of Daredevil review with episodes 5 through 8. So I'm excited. These episodes were awesome, just as much as the first 4. So let's just jump into it, alright? Let's do this. Yo, episode 5, off to a pretty good start. So episode 5 is mainly backstory for the most part, and it starts, of course, 10 years in the past when Matt meets Elektra for the first time. So, it was pretty cool. We get to see the backstory, we get to see how they meet, and we also get to see throughout this episode how the relationship progresses and how she ruins it completely at the end. So it's funny and it's messed up, and she's kind of a conniving person, which you see a lot of. You see how she's trying to play mad or trying to trick him. So it's a really good episode. It's definitely some backstory, and there's even a scene when they go back to the gym where Matt's father used to train and stuff. So I thought that was really cool. So that's mostly the flashback part of it, just to kind of give you the backstory of who they are and how they met, how they know each other. So in present day, Elektra's back. Obviously, if you've seen episode 1 through 4, you know this, and she's bugging Matt because she needs help, but she says she needs a lawyer's help, and she is a liar. So we find out that she's actually just trying to infiltrate this company that her father's money's in, but they do all kinds of illegal stuff. And we find out that they actually are the Yakuza. So yeah, Elektra is totally tricking Matt because Matt's trying to figure out what's going on. Then she tells him, but at this point he's already been involved, and so he's trying to help her. So he's like, look, if I help you, you got to go. I want you out of my city. So it's a really good episode. You see their back and forth, but then again, this episode really shows you how each character is growing, because we see Matt becoming more of the Daredevil, because he's strictly more Daredevil in this episode, and you kind of see like the lawyer and that whole thing kind of get put to the side. You see Foggy step up and be a super badass lawyer, and you can see him becoming a badass lawyer throughout the rest of the seasons and seasons to come. And Karen is actually kind of taking over Ben Urich's job from season 1. She's kind of becoming like that investigative journalist. She even goes to the paper and is like, I need to look through your stuff. And the guy's like, well, look, if I let you do this and you find anything that's legit and that you can prove, we get the scoop. And she's like, promise, boss. So you can see her, like, I think that's where she's going to go. So we'll see, of course, in the later episodes. So episode 5 is really good. It's a really good episode because it shows you where everyone's going and how they're becoming who they're going to be in the later episodes. So really good so far. Episode 6, we get our first Daredevil Elektra team up fight right off the bat, because they're in her penthouse and she shows him his suit and he's like, how do you know? And these Yakuza assassins show up and they come up, blow through the door, and we get the first fight scene as them as a team, and it's pretty cool. It's kind of weird because some of the Yakuza assassins kind of just chill, laying back, kind of watching, like they're that cocky, and then they just get beat down. Like, it was hilarious. I thought that was funny. So that was really cool. They just got beat down. So after that beat down, Electra's like, hungry? So they jump to a diner scene and they're talking about why she's really here and why she was lying the whole time, and how she needs help but not a lawyer. She wants Daredevil's help because she's trying to take down these Yakuza and she's trying to figure out what they're doing. And Daredevil straight up tells her, like, I've beat him before, I'll scare him out. And she's like, you never really beat him. But at the end of this scene, they come to a deal where he's like, look, I'll help you only because I want you to leave my city. This is my city. I take care of the city. You need to go. So after the diner scene, we're at the Nelson and Murdoch office where Matt and Karen kind of force and talk Foggy into taking over the Castle case to help Castle, because they're finding out the DA is going for the death penalty and she's pulling all the stops. So you see their law firm take over. They go visit Castle in the hospital, and Castle's being Castle. He's just ignoring everyone pretty much until Karen steps up and is like, don't you want to know the truth about your family? Pulls out a picture and everything. And that's when you see Castle kind of break a little bit when he starts to listen. But soon after, the DA shows up and yanks him out of there as quick as possible because she's trying to hide something. And again, one of my favorite scenes is when she's talking all this mess about how she's going to bury them under 6 feet of ashes of what used to be their law firm and reputation. Matt hits her with the logic and verbally bitch slaps this hoe. So I thought that was beautiful. I was like, yeah, that's Matt, right? That's Matt Murdoch, lawyer. Matt is quickly called away by Elektra with the car service, so he has to leave even though he insisted on taking the case, leaving Foggy and Karen to try to negotiate and figure out what terms Castle wants. So that's pretty much all that's left for them to do, while Matt has to go with Elektra, and they end up going to a party that is for the same people that she went to the business meeting for, who she's trying to infiltrate to figure out what they're doing and how they're doing all their illegal stuff, and they're trying to find a ledger. So the rest of the episode, Foggy and Karen are talking to Castle, and mostly just Karen because he's like, I only talk to her. And once they're talking to her, they're like, all right, look, once they kind of got the deal set up, he's like, all you need to say is, I'm guilty, Your Honor. That's it. And Castle's like, I can do that. And then we have the judge there with the DA, and everyone's there, and they're just waiting for him to say, I plead guilty, Your Honor, to sign this deal and call it a day. When he goes crazy and he's like, I'm not guilty. You're gonna burn with me, witch, and talking to the DA. So I thought that was intense because it was just unexpected. At the very end, we see Foggy waiting for Matt in front of his door when he shows up, and he's like, you weren't answering your phone. And he's like, what's going on? He goes, which is one of my favorite lines. Why are you fancy? Like, the first thing he says is, why are you fancy? I love that line. And this is when Foggy straight up tells Matt that we're going to trial. Something went wrong at the arraignment, and things are just not going as planned. Episode 7. I like how it starts because it's the jury selection, and you hear the bias of both sides. They either love him or they completely hate Frank Castle. They're like, he's wonderful, he's a hero, he's getting rid of the scum of the streets. And other people are like, he's a freaking animal who's disgusting and just slaughtering people. So I like the way they started that, the whole jury selection. Here's the beginning of the trial, and we're seeing where it's going, and you can see how Matt and Foggy are trying to work together to get this thing going, but at the same time, Elektra's a huge distraction in Matt's life right now because she's constantly pulling him away from the team. So you see that happen, and it gets really intense to the point where it's putting major tension on their relationship, Matt and Foggy's relationship. Major tension. It's even causing tension on Matt's new relationship with Karen. So Elektra is kind of causing trouble, and she's causing so much trouble that Matt's actually getting angry and losing some control. He's not killing or anything, but he is throwing few extra punches to certain people. Like, you can see him, like, the dude's knocked out and he just hits him a few more times. By a few more times, I mean a good 3 or 4 more times. So you kind of see that happening in this episode. There's another badass fight scene at this train station to see what they've been importing, and they open it and just a bunch of dirt falls out, and they're like, what the hell? We need dirt. And all these Yakuza assassins show up again, and we get a badass fight scene, which just becomes even badass fight scene later in the episode. So we see a lot of that, and then because of that, Matt misses the opening statement he was supposed to do, and it forces Foggy to kind of improv one on the spot to try and help Frank Castle and help the case, which puts even more tension on the friendship. So with all this tension building up, it's just getting crazier and crazier. And at the end of this episode, Elektra and Daredevil are breaking into this factory, which is owned by the Yakuza, which Fisk bought back in the first season, and they're fighting it, and they beat up a bunch of these bad guys, and they find a big ass hole. And it ends on this funny little note where he drops a flashlight, and they're just waiting, and Elektra's like, let me know when it drops. And it cuts. That was genius. I love the way they ended that. So episode 7 was really good, and it's just kind of building up. You just want to know what the hell is happening. Episode 8 starts right where episode 7 left off, and they're standing in front of the big ass hole that I mentioned, which they throw a flashlight, and they're just kind of waiting. And he finally, once it starts, they're like, it just hit at least 40 something stories deep. That's a big hole. And right after, ninja start flying everywhere, and they duck, and Daredevil's like, I can't hear anything. I don't hear no heartbeats or nothing. I'm like, that's some crazy ass ninja stuff. And we get another badass Daredevil season 2 fight scene continued, and another badass team fight scene between Elektra and Daredevil with a badass surprise, which, spoilers, just in case you didn't know, Styx shows up right after Daredevil stops Elektra from killing one of the ninjas. She gets sliced with the katana, and Styx shows up and kind of murderizes the rest of those ninjas, and he's pretty much kind of like, come with me if you want to live. Doesn't say that exactly, but that's pretty much what he meant. And we jump into an even cooler fight scene that's a car chase at the same time. Episode 8 is really awesome because it gives you a lot of missing information. For one, it's the first time we hear about the Hand, and a lot of real fans know, and then if you don't know, it's fine because they can give you a quick explanation. Old, like really old criminal kind of metahuman force that they're really fucked up. And Styx is always trying to create this team to fight them, but the reason he wants Daredevil is because he thinks Daredevil would be a good asset, but Daredevil doesn't kill, and that's an issue for Styx. And we find out Elektra was working for Styx the whole time, and she was there again to try and get Daredevil back, just like the first time they met was also a mission. And this is the first time that's all news to Daredevil. And also the way it ends, because the rest of this episode she's recovering from this big old slash, and then we see the trial, and the whole Nelson and Murdoch thing, they're kind of broken up right now. Foggy and Karen are concentrating on trying to help Castle, and Castle's not cooperating almost at all. He's making everything worse. And we get some more backstory on Castle and his military agenda and things of his past. And then on Daredevil's side, we see him definitely struggling to keep balance between being Matt Murdock, the lawyer, and Daredevil. It's really good, and this episode ends on a badass note. It ends with a super crazy fight scene at Matt's house with one of those ninjas. But the fight scene is awesome, but the way it ends is just, it blows your mind. I'm not going to tell you exactly how that fight scene ends because I want you to see it for the first time and just be like, holy shit, that bitch crazy. Also, at the very end, we get Castle's in jail. He walks in and meets Fisk. And my favorite part about that was the fact that we finally see Fisk doing some real of his strength thing. Because he was benching, I don't know, it was like 8 or 9 plates on each side. So it was like 700 something pounds he was benching. So I thought that was awesome. And then it ends. So you know what? Daredevil season 2 is kicking ass. Little side note, got the beanie today. Loot Crate versus month. this month, which is pretty cool. Daredevil beanie, which is also reversible, and you have the Punisher. So I thought it was really badass. So thanks to Loot Crate for always being awesome. And they didn't ask me to do this. I just wanted to let y'all know Loot Crate is awesome. Yo, if you like the review, if you like the show, if you like any of what you saw, smash that like button for me. And also please leave your feedback and comments down below. And as always, don't forget to subscribe. And as always, it's a pleasure.